Welcome to episode 3 of Climate Islands podcast. I am your host, Dawn Thomas. In this episode, we feature poet and youth climate activist in Papua New Guinea, Miss Vinzila Nen. Vinzila's interest in environmental and climate issues were first piqued when she was only 9 years old. Then, in 2015, as a teenager with youth-led 350 Pacific, Vinzila realized the effects of climate change on island countries such as Papua New Guinea. In September 2019, as a result of her climate change advocacy and poetry, Vinzila attended a United Nations high-level meeting to address the priorities of small island developing states. This inspired her, and she started a successful tree planting campaign. In her own words, the tree planting campaign took a life of its own in 12 provinces and driven by close to 1,000 young people. To date, over 15,000 number of trees have been planted. In September 2021, Vinzila and another Papua New Guinean, Kim Ellen, attended the Youth for Climate Summit in Italy. They were part of 400 young delegates from 193 UN member state countries at the event. Vinzila joins us on Climate Islands to talk about her participation at the Youth for Climate Summit. She will emphasize on why youth involvement in highlighting and addressing the impacts of climate change in vulnerable island communities is important. Welcome, Vinzila, to Climate Islands. So good to see you back in Papua New Guinea, safe and sound. Tell us a bit about yourself. What are some of the things that you're currently working on in your community to address climate change?
Thank you, Dawn, for having me on Climate Islands. Before I continue, I would like to disclose that views shared in this podcast are my own and are not necessarily viewed the same by the organizations that I affiliate myself with. It has now been 16 years since I've worked in the space of climate action, or right now I'm sort of addressing climate crisis and what's happening with the environment. I have always been interested in science. My major strength in school was always physics and chemistry. And I did commence my tertiary studies in biomedical engineering. However, due to family issues, my mom got sick, my father was put out of his job. I had to put that all on hold and I had to return back to PNG to join the workforce. I did not want to come back and be a liability to my parents. It's been 6 years since I left school, but my passion for the environment has always been constant. I've never really lost sight of that. It's been something that sort of, in my own terms, I normally say that it's what sets my soul on fire. Apart from my day job, I am the country lead for Sustainable Ocean Alliance hub in PNG. I started this hub in last year, 2020. So we started it to sort of address ocean health in local communities because I saw that that was lacking in many island communities. And most of the time we focus on the trees and we focus on the terrestrial side of things. We don't really focus on the marine. And even the ocean, it's like there's so many things about the ocean that hasn't been discovered yet. So that's the reason why I took that on board.
Wow, that's a lot. And I can hear it in your voice and the way you spoke. Your passion for the environment has continued and it's still there. And I admire that. I love what you said, what sets your soul on fire. Must have been an honor for you to represent PNG in the Youth for Climate Summit. Could you please tell us a little about that?
Yes, it's always an honor to represent my country and to sort of not only speak about the climate crisis and how we're stuck in the problems that climate change has brought, but to also talk about some of the solutions that we can offer to the table. We shouldn't really focus on the problems all the time because we do have some forms of solutions in our country. The trip to Italy was an absolute eye-opener. What really got me was the young people's voices being heard by the global leaders. That opportunity was an eye-opener for me. It's my first event to represent PNG as a young delegate to sort of talk about issues as such. So it was nerve-wracking, but it was also good. So the Youth for Climate Summit provided young delegates from over 193 countries the unprecedented opportunity to put forward ideas and concrete proposals on some of the most pressing issues on the climate agenda. The first 2 days were dedicated to working groups and how, like, discussions. So we had the rooms were split into two. Like, we had 4 working groups already, but it was split into 2. So you had the Global South on one side and the Global North on the other side of the room. So then we were able to debate. We had debates about issues because the Global North were like, oh, but it's not that hard. But the Global South were like, but we are the ones facing the issues. We are the ones who have to get our stuff out of homes because of the rising sea levels and all that. The final day, or the third day, we had the world leaders come together to listen to what we had to say. So we had repertoires from each working group go up and speak. It was really an amazing experience.
What were some of the key messages that the summit addressed?
Prior to the summit actually happening, we were broken down into 4 working groups. This was based on some of the webinars that we had and some of the classes that we had, the responses that we gave the experts a bird's eye view into our minds. So then they split us up into groups based on our interests. So we had Youth Driving Ambition. This featured like young people who were involved with the government or involved with organizations that were driving change in the communities with regard to climate crisis or climate change problems, climate justice, climate education, all that. The next second working group was Sustainable Recovery. So this was for the young people who were actively addressing loss and damage, whether it be in infrastructure, human life, or even ecosystems. How can we create solutions for those losses in a sustainable manner rather than we address the solutions and then we create more losses. And then we had the non-state actors engagement. So this was where young people did not do the work based on the requirements of their countries as they were not engaged by the state, but by their passion through art, music, sport, fashion, agriculture, aquaculture to address climate change and its effects. Finally, we had the Climate Conscious Society, which focused on the future. How can we go forward into building communities and countries where masses are informed and are concerned about what is happening to the planet? We plan to work together to sort of create solutions and to move forward.
Did the Pacific Islands and PNG have a voice during the summit?
Yes, we did have a voice. We also had representatives from around the Pacific, from Marshall Islands, Fiji, and the FSM, or Federated States of Micronesia. So we had a voice in a sense where we were able to contribute. Many times, from what I gathered from the other delegates, because they've had more experience in attending these events, they mentioned that most of the time the Pacific Islanders don't really have a voice. For us, we were very fortunate because we had 2 representatives on the UN Youth Envoy Climate Change Group. So we had a representative from Marshall Islands and another one from Fiji, who were driving the conversation towards the Pacific Islands. So it gave us that stepping stone to sort of be heard and to speak about our problems and what we're doing to create solutions in our country. Points reflected in the contributions from the Pacific were the reality that our people rely heavily on agriculture for livelihoods. And as a result, we are greatly affected by the climate crisis in terms of food production. This was backed up by the African and the Global South countries, who also faced similar problems to us. We also raised the issue of supporting ecotourism projects and to also allocate funds through climate finance goals set by the powerhouses, the bigger states. We are in the line of fire. We are right in front, and if anything happens, we are the ones that get to feel the effect before anyone else.
So how important is youth participation in climate change?
Youth participation is very, very, very important, I should say, because after all, the effects of climate change will affect the future that we inherit. We tend to be angry, and sometimes like that sort of dissolves the key messaging as to our participation and how vital our participation is. We need to speak up in a way where we're diplomatic and we sort of respect those who are in power to sort of come up with the solutions, because at the end of the day, we can come up with the energy and we can come up with all the angry voices and the angry tones of wanting to be heard about the future we will inherit. But if we do not work together with the people who are in power now, how can we get somewhere? How can we further understand things? How can we be involved in decision making and all of that?
In your opinion, how do you think the world would respond to resolutions put forward at the summit?
we hope to be taken seriously. Many times we often have the summits and we are not heard. A clear indication was when the repertoires were presenting their statements and we had the world leaders, like some of them were on their phones. We had world leaders just sleeping in front of us, and it sort of gave us the impression that we're not taken seriously. So more than anything, I really hope that even though they were sleeping, they were processing what was being said so that we can work together and they can consider the ideas that we've raised.
What is the next step? Are you looking forward to the challenges, to highlighting the impacts of climate change?
Yes, I am now looking forward to doing more climate awareness and getting more involved in community activities, not only to the ones that I have existing relations with, but also to new communities. So I haven't really done anything in my own village yet to address it, so I'm trying to get there now and do that. The challenges will still continue for PNG because we are an island nation. Our only hope is to be resilient, and we already are. Like, there's so many things that we're doing that proves our resilience in addressing the climate crisis, to adapt to whatever changes that may come. And as disheartening as it is, we have to be 10 or more steps ahead of the climate crisis. I believe that if we don't start doing things now, our country will be destroyed.
Thank you, Vinzila, for sharing your experience in attending the Youth for Climate Summit and also for sharing your thoughts and your heart. Join us next time on Climate Island Podcast.